Part 25. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 250. Well, we had a chance encounter many years ago. Xiao Jingzhao's expression was calm. We didn't lie to you, did we? Miss Zhang is as beautiful as a fairy, especially the beauty mark between her eyebrows, which is unforgettable. Talking about beauties, the Prime Minister's eyebrows danced and his expression was in high spirits. Your Majesty, the ministers should be urging you to select a queen next. Do you want to consider Miss Zhang? Xiangji is very free today, would you like to help me? No, Your Majesty, it's not that I don't want to help. I drank a few too many drinks at the banquet just now, and I feel dizzy and sleepy. Lin Xiangji waved his hands repeatedly, then covered his face with his sleeves and yawned. He quickly selected two houses not far from each other on the book and left in a hurry. After the banquet in Qianglin, Sujin went straight back to Zhang Mansion. Second place. Our Ajin is really good. It's amazing to be in the top 3. Zhang Shuyu was very happy to learn that Sujin won the second place. Sister, this is not enough. I am a 7th grade editor. I will work hard to grow into a big tree that can protect my sister and her from the wind and rain. Zhang Shuyu was moved to tears by Sujin's words. It's not that relatives are better than relatives. At this moment, she felt that she was not alone in this other world. She picked up the handkerchief and pressed the corners of her eyes, and said earnestly, Sister, as long as you are safe and happy, and your career goes smoothly, do your best. He is a wise king. There was another happy event in the mansion, so Zhang Shuyu had no choice but to ask Xiuzhu to reward the maids and servants, and asked Gao Mu to go to the Juxian pavilion to invite a banquet back to the mansion to celebrate. The palace sent someone to deliver the court clothes, and also talked about the horse riding parade tomorrow. Everything was arranged by the people from the Ministry of Etiquette, and Zhang Shuyu asked Xiuzhu to prepare enough purses to reward. When Sunan learned that her eldest brother had won the second place, she was both happy and stressed. These days, Gao Mu teaches basic skills every year, and Sunan follows suit. In his words, even if you learn a little bit about it, you can still fool people even if you use your skills and tricks. The next morning, people from the palace came to Zhang Mansion early. With the help of the palace servants, Sujin dressed neatly and sat in the hall to wait. Zhang Shuyu saw Sujin looking towards the door from time to time, and she said, the etiquette team is waiting for the number 1 scholar outside Zhen's mansion, and they will be here soon. Well, sister, don't worry, just ride a horse and swim through a few main streets. Sujin comforted her even though she was nervous. In the past, the parade lasted for 3 days, but the emperor changed it to 1 day, and after 3 days, everyone took office. Zhang Shuyu looked at the keys in the tray and said, don't be in a hurry to move out. Kanyun can give it to you every morning. Okay, my sister will come with me tomorrow to have a look. It's close to the palace gate. I need my sister to send someone to help me clean it up before I go there to live there. Zhang Shuyu had no choice but to nod. It was close to the palace gate, so Sujin didn't have to get up too early. It was the property of the imperial court, and the money to rent it was not much. Qiuzhu, Lan'er and Mayer distributed silver rewards to everyone in the palace one by one. Holding heavy purses, everyone was smiling and respectful, without any intention of putting on airs. The gongs and drums sounded outside the door, and immediately a messenger sang, please mount the horse. Everyone surrounded Sujin and walked outside. Yezu, do you think my uncle is wearing a red robe today? Does he look like a groom on his way to welcome a bride? Under the mulioned window at the back of the hall, 2 little heads poked their heads into the hall. Yezu scratched his forehead and said, Master, I haven't seen the bridegroom official yet, but Mr. Su's official uniform is quite majestic. You two, stop looking. Everyone has left. There are many people on the street today. How about we just right in the house? The two of them were fascinated. At some point, Sunan came behind them. After leaving the mansion and not walking far, the etiquette team quickly joined the team, Baijo, the most beautiful woman. The three of them are wearing gold-flowered black gauze hats, faces like jade, red robes, and horses with golden saddles and red manes. The officials in front cleared the way, followed closely by the honor guard. With a smile on his face, Zhuangyu and Zhenjingxiu kept offering his hands to the followers and people on both sides of the street. From the tea house windows on both sides of the street, girls threw silk flowers at the three of them from time to time. The crowd cheering in front and behind watched silk flower almost fall into the arms of the number one scholar. Someone cheered and shouted, "Hurry up, the number one scholar. The names on the gold list are inscribed. Let's have a wedding night and everything will be happy." The shout made everyone burst into laughter. Sujin and Baijo were also surrounded by a group of people. Many officials and people followed the team, forming a huge and powerful team walking forward. Lin Xiangji and Xie Yunchen were also among them. They picked up a silk flower from somewhere and stuck it behind their ears. Seeing the girls' enthusiasm for the three talents, the two of them clapped and cheered from time to time, as if they didn't mind the matter. When the girls saw the appearance of the three people clearly, some people exclaimed, "It is said that the emperor's chosen number one is Mong Saifanan, but today the number one winner and the second number two are both extraordinary in appearance, and they are as handsome as the number two. Yes. The number one scholar has a face like a crown jade and a graceful demeanor. The number two scholar has red lips and white teeth and is as gentle as jade. The number one scholar has handsome eyes and slender eyebrows. He is tall and tall. I don't know which daughter is lucky enough to get such a good son-in-law." Someone immediately echoed, "If the three of us were walking side by side, we really wouldn't be able to tell who was looking for the best." Gao Mu and Kang Yun followed Guanxia and saw a girl throwing silk flowers at the three of them along the way. When Kang Yun saw that Sujin deliberately let the silk flowers slip from his sleeves, he could not wait to pick them up and stuff them into Sujin's arms. Most of the people who threw silk flowers were young ladies from official families, and the three handsome young men were full of youth, like banished immortals who could not eat the fireworks of the world. In Changle Palace, Changle sat on the couch, took the melon seeds that Jing'er had peeled and threw them into the air, then raised her head and opened her mouth to catch them. She threw several seeds in a row, and almost all of them went into her mouth steadily. "Princess, if you are really bored, I will pretend to be a scholar in the tea house and tell you a story." Jing'er was terrified. She was afraid that the melon seeds would fall into the princess' throat and choke her. There was a precedent of choking before. Changle smacked her lips and shook her head. "Your story is not as interesting as the storyteller. I want to go out and see the champion riding a horse across the street." "Princess, you don't want to see the champion riding a horse across the street. You really want to go to Zhang Mansion," Jing'er muttered softly and glanced outside the palace. "And Cai hasn't come today, so it seems that there is no need to learn the rules today." Changle jumped up from the couch and patted Jing'er's shoulder heavily. She said carelessly, "Jing'er knows me well. Go to the gate of Changle Palace to see if that annoying eunuch is there. If not, come back and report. We are going to leave the palace." Jing'er was so scared that she knelt down with a plop. "Your Highness, please spare me. If Aunt Cai knows, she will break my legs." "What are you afraid of? Aunt Cai has a sharp tongue but a soft heart. When have you ever seen her really hit anyone?" After the Queen Mother learned about the kidnapping, she confined Changle's feet and specially sent a little eunuch to guard the gate of the palace, not allowing Changle to leave Changle Palace without permission. These days, Aunt Cai comes to teach the rules for an hour. Changle pretends to obey but disobeys, and learns well. As long as Aunt Cai leaves, she will show her true colors. Since yesterday, she has been thinking about finding a way to leave the palace. Knowing that the number one scholar would be paraded on horseback today, she went to the emperor to plead for mercy yesterday when the eunuch outside the palace was not there. However, eunuch Ma said that the emperor was busy and had no time to see her. How could Jing not listen to her master? Your Highness, wait. I will be back soon. She gritted her teeth and ran out. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 253. How about it? Master, can you give it a try? Yang twisted her waist and took 2 steps forward to stand next to Zhang Zhenming's desk. If it were in the past, she would have sat in his arms and acted coquettishly. Now everyone in the house listens to Mrs. Zheng, and she is afraid that the servants will see the scene and make her gossip. Tomorrow Mrs. Zheng will definitely call her a coquettish girl. Is this really possible? Zhang Zhenming was so excited that it felt as unreal as a dream. Yang took the opportunity to say something. Why not? Jiao needs to look good, and we are not here for the second place. The master is also a 6th grade principal after all. Speaking of which, the Su family is still high on this marriage. Okay, first go to the Su family's old house to find someone to talk about this matter. Don't go to the Zhang mansion to make any noise. That evil girl will interfere with it if she finds out. Yang was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed and said, "Thank you, master, for trusting me. I will go to the Su family's old house in person tomorrow." "Master, it's getting late, let's make arrangements." Yang grabbed Zhang Zhenming's arm and rubbed her high breasts against Zhang Zhenming's arm. She was so charming, and the MILFs also had a unique sense of coquettishness, which made Zhang Zhenming feel slightly agitated. Ms. Yang has lived a life of fine clothing and fine food in these years, and she is well maintained and well maintained. Zhang Zhenming is the only one who dotes on her. She looks like she is only in her early 30s, and she looks several years younger than Mr. Zheng. Zhang Zhenming swallowed his saliva and said, "Go and get ready to take a bath. You will stay in your room tonight. We will discuss the next plan in detail later." "Yes, I will obey the master's arrangements." Yang was so excited that a blush rose on her cheeks. Zhang Zhenming's temperament was clearly revealed by her, and he acted like a scholar on the surface. As long as she showed her flattery, he would be defeated. After Yang left, Zhang Zhenming sat in a daze for a while before walking towards the side courtyard. In the side courtyard, the lights are dim and the pink gauze curtain hangs lightly. From the decoration in the house, it can be seen that it is the house where the concubine lives. However, the gently floating gauze curtain makes the atmosphere in the room seem warm and charming, as if it can tug at people's heartstrings. "Master is here, come in quickly, the water temperature is just right." Hearing the wooden door creaking, Yang's voice shouted from inside the house. Opening the door, a sweet scent hits you. In the corner door next door, a servant girl heard the commotion and took a look. She saw that the courtyard was silent. She drew back her head and muttered to another servant in the room, "Humiiza is really not afraid of the cold. Today she is busy working in the kitchen wearing only a thin layer, and she forcefully hooked the master into the house." Another servant girl chuckled and said, "There is a stove in the kitchen and a master under the quilt, so she can't be cold." Hey! The mistress is so focused on the young master's studies that she has regained her favor with this charming boy. While the two were talking, the sound of playing in the water came from the next room. Yang's soft voice sounded, "Master, come here, it's not snowing yet, and it's warm in the house. This bathtub is too, well." After a while, the sound of water spilling onto the ground came from next door. Then came Yang's delicate babbling sounds. The young servant girl was so ashamed that she wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide. The elder curled his lips indifferently and lowered his voice, "What are you embarrassed about? Who made me unable to afford a big house? We didn't eavesdrop on this corner on purpose." The young servant girl blushed and said, She is too wild. I am a doting concubine, not just to please the master. If you have her skills, you don't have to stay in the kitchen all day. When the older maid said this, the young maid's face turned even redder. After a while, the humming next door faded away, just when the two thought they were done. Hearing Mrs. Yang's breath, she said, "I'm so powerful, I'm as powerful as before. I'm falling in love with you more and more. I'll have a lot of fun with you tonight." There was the sound of someone getting out of the tub next door. After a while, Yang's bold and explicit provocative words and giggling laughter sounded from the next door. The old servant girl couldn't stand listening anymore. She gritted her teeth and said, "No, this prostitute is too powerful. We have to think of something. If the master comes here every 3 days, we won't be able to sleep at night. Forget it, master is willing to spare that vixen, can we slaves run over and drag master off her bed?" The young maid whispered timidly. "We can't cure her, but madam can always cure her. I'm going to give madam a message and ask her to set some rules for whom Isa," the maid said, and was about to open the door. The young maid hurriedly said, "Goodbye, we two live in the side courtyard. If the wife comes to embarrass us later, the master will be unhappy. We are no better than little girls. If we are sold out by the master, we will not be able to find a master again." She clearly remembered that since moving to this yard, the master had not been here a few times. In the past few times, Yang had restrained herself, and the movement in the room was not as loud as it was tonight. There is only one reason, to be arrogant. Seeing her companion's hesitation, she added, "There is no need to rush. I will find an opportunity to go to madam to reveal a few words another day. How madam sets rules for her, that is madam's business." The servant woman retracted her hand and turned to sit back on the edge of the bed, sighing, "Hey. Even if the master dotes on that foxy child, so what? The wife was once a concubine, so what if she wears gold and silver? After all, she still doesn't have the bearing of a mistress." The two maids simply turned off the lights, went to bed and covered their heads with quilts to sleep. They didn't know how long the neighbor had been struggling. The next day, Yang was radiant, put on a decent dress, said hello to Zheng and went out. Now there was only one carriage left in the mansion, which was called away by Zhang Zhengming, so Yang had to go out on foot. Fortunately, the Su family also lived in the north of the city, and she knew the approximate location before. After a little inquiry, she soon found the alley where the Su family lived. Following the direction pointed by the passerby, she saw an old house at the end of the alley from a distance. When she got closer, she saw that the bluestone slabs on both sides of the gate were covered with dead leaves. The two words "Su's house" on the plaque were vigorous and powerful, and the mottled gatehouse silently told the vicissitudes of time. Tisk tisk tisk. No wonder the second place went to the Zhang mansion, such a poor family, how could he dare to show it to others? Yang hesitated in front of the door. Looking at this scene, the Su family was in a state of decline, and they were reluctant to paint the paint on the gatehouse. There was no servant guarding in front of the gatehouse, and her daughter would suffer if she married into the Su family. No, that dead girl owns both a clinic and a restaurant, and her business is booming. As long as she lets a little money slip through her fingers, her daughter will have no worries about food and clothing. Yang gritted her teeth, stepped forward and knocked on the door. "Is anyone there?" After a while, footsteps were heard from inside the door. A woman's voice asked, "Who's outside?" Jiang's family. Yang originally wanted to say Shangshu Mansion, but then she remembered that Master Su might also know that Shangshu Mansion was gone. The door latch sounded, and the door opened from the inside with a creak. "It's you." The people in the room and Yang shouted almost at the same time. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 254. Why is it you? The person who opened the door was Su's wife Qin, who had met Yang before. Qin was wearing a half-new dress, her hair was combed meticulously, and she wore a silver-plated plum blossom hairpin on it. In the past, Qin was also a person who wore gold and silver, but now she only wore a silver hairpin, and her shabby dress was not as decent as Yang's. Yang did not expect that the person who opened the door would be Su's wife. The two looked at each other. Qin did not expect that Yang's concubine would come to the Su family. What do you want? Qin stared at Yang with a vigilant look, standing in the middle, with no intention of letting Yang in. Yang saw that Qin looked unhappy, and originally wanted to congratulate the Su family for having a second place. She swallowed her words abruptly and changed her mind. With a smile on her face, she said, Madame Su is still so young and beautiful. Since my sister passed away, the relationship between our two families has become estranged. The master is a person who cherishes the old times, so he specially sent me to visit my sister's family. You alone. It is said that you should not hit a smiling person. Qin looked behind Yang, but she did not see Yang with a maid or gifts. She half believed and half doubted and put down her hand on the doorframe. Madam, you don't know. The affairs of the Zhang family are hard to describe. I will go in and talk to you about it. It was really difficult for her to tell outsiders about bringing a maid. There was no one she could trust around her. The maid assigned to her courtyard by Zheng often ran to Zheng's courtyard. It was almost the same as having no maid. It was still unknown whether this matter could be done today, and Zheng must not know. Last night, the master promised that Jiaer's marriage would be decided by himself. If Zheng knew about it, she would probably be so angry that she would vomit blood. Qin stepped aside and let Yang in. Although the Su family's house is a little old, the area inside is not small. After entering the gate, you can see an archway on the side of the first hanging flower gate, with an unclosed copper lock hanging on it. Seeing Yang's curious eyes, Qin said lightly, after the two elders of the Su family passed away, we and the second branch separated. Yang said oh to show that she understood. The two families share the same gate, and people outside don't know that the two brothers of the Su family have separated. It seems that the Su family still wants to save face, fearing that others will say that they are brothers. In the capital, parents are not separated, otherwise they will be accused of being unfilial. Yang smiled and said, the two elders of the Su family are gone, so they should separate. Even if they open another gatehouse, others will not say anything. It costs money to build another gatehouse, just like now, it's much easier to open a doorway on the wall. Hearing the resentment in Qin's tone, Yang quickly shut up. It turned out that the two brothers were competing and were unwilling to spend money to build another gatehouse. Qin led the people into the hall, but no maid came to serve tea. Qin sat directly on the armchair at the top. When the family was divided, the second house took away most of the servants. Today, the maid in my house went out to buy things. Please forgive me for the poor hospitality. Madam, please don't be polite. I had porridge this morning, so I'm not thirsty. Yang bowed slightly and sat down at the bottom with great insight. What do you mean the second house took away most of the servants? Are there no people left to make tea? Looking at this scene, the only servant of the Su family's main house is Qin's maid. In the hall, there are only cypress armchairs and 8 immortal tables. At a glance, there is not a single valuable item, let alone antique shelves and ornaments for decoration. Qin said straight to the point, what exactly do you want to do today? Qin did not address Yang. In her eyes, no matter how poor the Su family was, she was still the wife of the main house. Being able to sit here with a concubine was already giving face to the Zhang family. I remember that the eldest lady has a young master and a young lady. I wonder if it is the eldest young master or the second young master who will take the imperial examination this year. Before Yang could finish her words, Qin interrupted her. My son Peng is not interested in this. He is now working with my family. Qin was born in a merchant family. Yang was not very clear about this. She did not ask further. Yang remembered that the first child of the Su brothers was a few months apart, about 1 year younger than Zhang Jiaoqiao. Yang automatically imagined that the runner-up was the child of the second young master. Many years ago, she had seen several children of the Su family at Su's morning hall. The one who impressed her most was the eldest son of the two branches of the Su family. He looked quite like Su, with clear eyebrows and handsome eyes. Your son is a handsome man. I wonder which girl he has chosen, Yang asked tentatively. If you count carefully, the eldest son of the Su family is 19 years old. If his family is prosperous, he would be married. Qin simply didn't pretend, and frowned slightly. My master has been a 9th-rank official for so many years. His salary is only enough to support his family. How can there be extra money for Peng to find a wife? Don't worry, children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. Let him start a family and build a career by himself, Qin added calmly, as if she was really not in a hurry. After Qin finished speaking, she glanced at Yang and thought to herself, is a lowly concubine coming to her house to act as a matchmaker for Peng? Yang lowered her eyes slightly, and she had already made up her mind. The eldest master of the Su family is a civil official, a leisurely position. Some men will do evil things once they are too idle. For example, they go to gambling houses and tea houses, listen to music and visit prostitutes in brothels. The eldest master of the Su family is just the former. In the past, when he lost money, he would go to the Zhang mansion to find Su and cry poor, saying that he had no money to fill the hole and his parents would be mad to death, or that he had no money to buy medicine for his parents. In short, there are all kinds of excuses, and I will never leave empty-handed every time. Su is the eldest son of the family and a person who loves her parents very much. All her dowry has been emptied by the Su family's uncle. If she hadn't been attending various banquets, her jewelry would have been stolen by the Su family's uncle. The word filial piety is overwhelming. No matter how Su helped her natal family, Zhang Zhengming had nothing to say. After all, Su used her dowry to subsidize her natal family. Seeing Yang's silence, Qin asked, I heard that Mr. Zhang was demoted from his official position. That's right, as emperor and courtier, my master is still the head of the household department after all, and many of the old ministers have gone directly back to their hometowns to take care of themselves, Yang said with a slight smile at the corner of her mouth, in a cheerful mood. In Yang's view, no matter how low his official position was, Zhang Zhengming was still better than the Su family uncle, and his sense of superiority naturally came out. That slight smile dazzled Ms. Qin, and she stood up to see off the guests. Since Aunt Yang has nothing else to do, please come back. Who said there's nothing else? Aren't I just going to talk about the marriage between our two families? Ms. Qin looked confused, raised her buttocks and fell back to the armchair. Who is going to marry whom? Ms. Yang smiled and said, your eldest husband is about the same age as my daughter. They are well matched in talent and appearance. Our families are old friends. It is better to support each other than to marry an outsider. Madam, do you think this is true? Qin was confused, with only 4 words left in her mind. Get married. Support. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 258. Hearing the strange voice, Zhang Xiu suddenly raised her head and saw a handsome man staring at her with unbelievable eyes. Why does he look so familiar? Zhang Xiu racked her brains to search in her mind. Before she could remember who this person was, she heard the man excitedly said, Sister I am Su Peng, don't you remember me? Hearing the name, the brain was like a computer without a signal, and it was connected successfully in an instant. Su Peng, the eldest son of the original owner's uncle, is the original owner's real cousin. Zhang Shuyu secretly said. It's really a narrow road for enemies. I can meet people who I can't avoid here. She knew exactly what kind of people were in the original owner's uncle's family. The original owner might be suppressed by blood, but she would not. The moment of stunned silence was just a blink of an eye. Zhang Shuyu pretended to look around in confusion, then looked at the other party. Young master, are you calling me? Sister are you really still alive? Why did your uncle announce that you died of a sudden illness? Su Peng was overjoyed, looking at Zhang Shuyu as if he saw gold, his eyes shining. Young master, you have recognized the wrong person. I don't know you, Zhang Shuyu said, bypassing Su Peng and leaving. Su Peng stretched out his hand to block his way. You can't fool me, you are sister you look like your aunt, and the beauty mole on your forehead is exactly the same. Zhang Shuyu was almost laughed at by him. Are you saying that all those with a beauty mole on their eyebrows are your cousins? In the capital, I have seen several people with moles on their eyebrows. Young master, you have so many cousins. Yes, no, it's not, you look too much like her. Seeing Zhang Shuyu denying it, Su Peng began to suspect that he had recognized the wrong person. There is no such thing as resurrection from the dead. There are also people who look similar. After denying his own thoughts, Su Peng took another look. The woman opposite him had eyebrows and eyes that were very similar to his cousin, but the aura around her, and the eyes that could see through everything, were definitely not possessed by ordinary women. Su Peng slowly put down the hand that blocked Zhang Shuyu's way, smiled embarrassedly and said, sorry, you really look too much like my cousin. Zhang Shuyu said lightly, it doesn't matter, you are not the only one who made the mistake. Zhang Shuyu left without looking back. Su Peng looked at her leaving back and murmured to himself, it would be great if she was really my cousin. With such a noble aura, I would believe that she was the imperial concubine. Su Peng's maternal grandfather's family ran a dyeing factory. He could tell at a glance that the fabric Zhang Shuyu was wearing was very valuable. Zhang Shuyu looked back when she was about to reach the palace gate. She was relieved when she didn't see Su Peng following her. Fortunately, after many years, she is quite different from the original owner's reserved temperament. As long as she doesn't recognize it, no one can do anything to her. Let alone the original owner's vampire relatives. Even if they are really her own relatives, she will not indulge them. Zhang Shuyu stroked her chest, calmed down and walked towards the palace gate. She showed the jade token given to her by Xiao Jingzhao, and the guard let her in after just one look. This time, Xiang Yang or Xiang Song did not accompany her. In the absence of a sedan chair, Zhang Shuyu could only walk. Fortunately, she often exercises and does not feel tired when walking. Red walls and green tiles, flying eaves and steep cliffs, she walked and leisurely admired this ancient palace. Sister Zhang. At the end of a palace road, someone shouted behind her. Zhang Shuyu turned around and saw Suan coming from another palace road. Suan, what a coincidence, I actually met you here. Zhang Shuyu smiled and stopped. Suan quickly took a few steps to catch up, smiling and said, what a coincidence, I thought I was seeing things wrong, but it was really Sister Zhang. Then he bowed to Zhang Shuyu and said, thank you for the book, Sister Zhang. Zhang Shuyu smiled and said, you're welcome, you should learn basic medical theories from Uncle Lin first, and then read more pulse cases, so that you can remember them more deeply. Suan nodded to show that he understood. Then he asked again, Sister Zhang, are you going to find Uncle Lin? Uncle Lin is in the Imperial Hospital now, I will accompany you there. After meeting twice, Suan was no longer shy. He often listened to his master talk about Sister Jiang's medical skills, and he admired Zhang Shuyu in his heart. Zhang Shuyu pointed ahead, I'm going to pay my respects to the Queen Mother. I won't go to Uncle Lin's place. Just help me take care of him. Next time you have a day off, you can go out of the palace with Uncle Lin to visit Jiang's mansion. Suan happily responded, "Yes, I will definitely go." Accompanied by Suan, Zhang Shuya continued to walk forward. There were several palace roads ahead. In Zhang Shuyu's eyes, the palaces and walls in the palace all looked similar. She couldn't remember which one she had walked on last time. Seeing Zhang Shuyu slow down, Suan said, "The palace road on the far left leads to the harem. Some palaces are connected to each other, and there is more than one way to the harem." Zhang Shuyu saw that Suan was going to see her off, so she stopped and said, "Suan, you go and do your work. Men are not convenient to enter and leave the harem. I can go to the harem alone." Suan naturally understood the palace rules. He nodded and said, "Go forward and you will see the imperial garden. Go to the left and you will go to the harem." After saying goodbye to Suan, Zhang Shuya quickened her pace. She planned to leave the palace before noon. Who knew that she saw a familiar figure in the imperial garden not far away? Zhang Shuya never thought that she would meet Xiao Jingzhao here. "Yu Niang. Your Majesty." Zhang Shuya lowered her eyes slightly and bowed. When she raised her eyes again, the bright yellow color had already appeared in front of her. "Aren't you here to see me?" Zhang Shuya. How to answer this? Originally planned to go to see the Queen Mother first, Zhang Shuya said implicitly, meaning that Your Majesty was still behind. Xiao Jingzhao was not stupid either. Zhang Shuya had come here, so of course she was going to see the Queen Mother. He put away a faint smile and waved to the distance, and Zhang Shuya saw several palace maids coming over. When the palace maids approached, Xiao Jingzhao raised his hand slightly and ordered, "Send the girl to the Sinning Palace." Then he said to Zhang Shuya gently, "I will go there later." Zhang Shuya raised her eyes, and her eyes just bumped into the phoenix eyes under his sword eyebrows. His eyes were so gentle that they seemed to be able to tolerate everything, just like the clear lake water with ripples under the warm spring sun, which made people unable to help but immerse themselves in it. Now he has less of the cold breath he had at the beginning, and more of the calmness of a king. "Miss, please." The palace maids knelt down and saluted together. "Yeah." Zhang Shuyu hurriedly moved her eyes away, bowed slightly to Xiao Jingzhao and walked forward. Zhang Shuyu decided not to look at him again next time. The enchanting eyes seemed to have magic, and she was attracted by him without paying attention. "Master, Miss Zhang didn't bring you a gift." Xiang Yang appeared from nowhere and said as he looked at the back of the figure going away. "Xiao Jingzhao. Are you free today?" Xiao Jingzhao glared at Xiang Yang and walked towards the imperial study with big strides. Xiang Yang scratched the back of his head. "Miss Zhang only has a gift box in her hand, I should be right." After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 260. Watching Zhang Shuyu and Xiang Yang walk away, the Queen Mother glared at Changle fiercely, "You silly child, you really have no vision. Is there no lunch in the imperial study?" Changle blinked aggrievedly, "I want to have lunch with Sister Zhang. If my mother agrees, I want to leave the palace with her." "Second sister, do you want Sister Zhang to be our sister-in-law?" Yang He was afraid that Changle would annoy her mother and ban her feet again, so she asked in a different way. Changle nodded like a chick pecking at rice, "Of course, then Sui Sui will live in the palace every day, and we can see Sister Zhang every day." Yang He shook his head, "Wrong." Changle's phoenix eyes widened and exclaimed, "Big sister, don't you want Sister Zhang to be our sister-in-law?" "No, of course I hope Sister Zhang will be our sister-in-law. As long as Sister Zhang becomes our sister-in-law, there will be brothers and sisters of Sui Sui in the palace in the future. Don't you think so?" The Queen Mother looked at Yang He with approval. Changle sat back on the chaise longue, and said with lingering fear, "I was scared to death. I thought that the elder sister didn't like Sister Zhang and Sui Sui anymore." Yang He sat down next to Changle and explained patiently, "Sister Zhang and the second brother rarely get along alone. If you go with them again, the second brother will not have the opportunity to cultivate feelings with Sister Zhang, and our wish will be difficult to realize. Changle suddenly realized, oh, I understand. In the future, there will be no me if there is only the second brother, and no second brother if there is only me. Mother, you don't have anything to do for me, right? Changle looked at her mother obediently. The Queen Mother said unhappily, it's none of your business. Go back to the palace to practice the piano. At this time, AncientChina also came back. The Queen Mother asked AncientChina to go to the warehouse to select the best bird's nest and send someone to send it to the Zhang mansion. There are not many masters in the harem, and naturally there are not many palace maids and eunuchs. I didn't meet many palace maids along the way. Xiangyang asked Zhang Shuyu for no reason, Miss, you run the Juxian pavilion really well. I heard that there are many dishes that were not available before. Zhang Shuyu smiled faintly, thank you, Deputy Commander Xiang. The good management is also due to the contributions of the two shopkeepers Hu Qing and Nangong Ziyu. Deputy Commander Xiang can try it when he has time. The special dishes inside are quite good. Xiangyang nodded with a smile. He always returned to the palace on time when he went out to work, so he had no time to enjoy the food. When the two came to the imperial study, Xiao Jingzhao was making tea. There was no sign of eunuch Ma in the room. Several palace maids and eunuchs outside the palace were standing in the corridor. Without Xiao Jingzhao's order, no one was allowed to go in and serve. Xiangyang watched Zhang Shuyu go in and waited outside the door. Did I disturb you? There was no one else here, so Zhang Shuyu really didn't care about the set of false etiquette. Xiao Jingzhao put the brewed tea on the opposite side of the desk. I'm done, come and have a cup of tea. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhang Shuyu sat down generously. The two were separated by a table, and the faint cold bamboo fragrance lingered at the tip of their noses. You came at the right time today. Tomorrow the academy will begin the assessment stage for the students who are admitted. In a few days, Sui Sui will be able to enter the school. When Xiao Jingzhao spoke, his eyes fell on Zhang Shuyu's face. Zhang Shuyu knew that most of the students in Taixuo Academy were children of noble families in the capital and ministers of the court. Not all the sons and daughters of officials can go in and study at will. They are all interviewed to ensure that the children are smart before they are qualified to enter. There are also talented scholars who are recommended by court officials, and such people can also successfully enter Taixuo Academy to study with the princes. In the past, Taixuo Academy was made a mess by the Song family, and the truly talented scholars all went to the Zhen family. After Xiao Jingzhao's reorganization, he appointed Zhen Dixuoshi as a doctor, and he was in charge of the employment and management of the entire Taixuo Academy. A total of 6 doctors were selected, and the other 5 people performed their duties, including assistant teachers, classics, and guards, a total of more than a dozen people. Everyone in it had been secretly investigated by Xiao Jingzhao, and there were many talented people who were demoted by the previous dynasty. Zhang Shuyu said seriously, Your Majesty, since you want to interview and assess, Sushui, Sunan and Sushui's bookboy should also face the questions of the master equally. Zhang Shuyu raised her eyes, and the two looked at each other again. The deep phoenix eyes opposite flashed a trace of cunning. Yu Niang, have you looked at me seriously? Xiao Jingzhao answered irrelevantly. Zhang Shuyu. How to respond to this? Zhang Shuyu's ears blushed slightly, pretending to be calm, and asked, We are talking about the children's education, what does the emperor mean? Seeing a trace of panic in Zhang Shuyu's eyes, Xiao Jingzhao said, Yun Niang, you have never understood me, why do you deny me? If you are willing to be the queen, you will be the crown prince every year, and the crown prince will naturally not need to be tested for education. Thank you for your favor, the emperor. I have been used to a simple life in the past few years. Your Majesty is very good, it is me who is not good at competing for favor in the harem. Zhang Shuyu's words are very clear. You have too many concubines in the harem, and I don't want to share a husband with others. Xiao Jingzhao is so smart that he naturally understands the meaning of Zhang Shiyu's words. He said lightly, I don't need to select a beauty. Zhang Shiyu picked up the teacup and took a sip, secretly complaining in her heart that not selecting a beauty can't stop the ministers from sending their daughters to the palace. Your Majesty, just enjoy your life surrounded by beauties. Xiao Jingzhao saw that Zhang Shiyu was silent and thought she was thinking seriously. He had no idea that Zhang Shiyu had already imagined a happy and erotic life for him in her mind. He knew it was hard to make Zhang Shiyu believe that he would not participate in the selection. I will prove it to you with time. Zhang Shiyu smiled but said nothing. She dared not believe the emperor's promise. Since ancient times, the harem has been involved in the previous dynasty. In order to stabilize the imperial power and win the hearts of the people, the king had to take concubines. 3 wives and 4 concubines are also what most men like from the bottom of their hearts. Facing the advice of the ministers, how could Xiao Jingzhao achieve what she wanted, a lifelong couple? Your Majesty, in order not to attract attention, I will send Sui Sui and others to the interview tomorrow. Xiao Jingzhao could not resist Zhang Shiyu and nodded, I will let Xiang Yang pick them up. Don't, everyone knows that Xiang Yang is someone close to the emperor. Sui Sui looks too much like you. If Xiang Yang sends her, it would be a cover-up. Seeing that Zhang Shiyu refused decisively, Xiao Jingzhao stopped persuading her. He originally planned to directly disclose Sui Sui's identity, but was worried about causing harm to Zhang Shiyu. After weighing the pros and cons, he had another plan in mind. Next, Zhang Shiyu talked to Xiao Jingzhao about the Juxian Pavilion and greenhouse vegetables, which was also a report on the work progress to the shareholders. Zhang Shiyu estimated that the time was about right. She stood up and said, let's talk about this today. When the greenhouse vegetables are ripe, I will have someone send some to the palace. If there is nothing else, I will go back. Xiao Jingzhao hurriedly said, wait, the imperial meal will be delivered soon. I have something to discuss with you. Let's eat and talk. Zhang Shiyu. What else does the emperor want? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 261. Before he finished speaking, he heard Eunuch Ma reporting from outside, Your Majesty, it's time for lunch. Zhang Shiyu had no choice but to follow Xiao Jingzhao to the other side of the imperial study. The dining table in the imperial study is not big, so it can be seen that Xiao Jingzhao often eats here. As soon as the two of them sat down, the food was delivered like water. The maids carried trays with exquisite utensils. After placing the dishes, Eunuch Ma waved his hand, and the leading maid placed the dishes on the tray on the table. The palace maid announced the name of each dish she served, and she served a total of 28 dishes and 1 soup. As the palace maid opened the exquisite lid, the alluring fragrance suddenly filled the room. Eunuch Ma took out the silver needle and prepared to test the dishes. Zhang Shiyu smiled and said, not every poison can be detected with a silver needle. Then, I'll try another way. Just when Zhang Shiyu was looking forward to seeing what Eunuch Ma would bring out something better to try. Eunuch Ma turned around and took a plate and a pair of chopsticks. Starting from the dish closest to the emperor's face, he began to put a small piece into his plate, taking only a small piece of each dish. Zhang Shiyu looked at Xiao Jingzhao. Xiao Jingzhao immediately understood, does Yu Yiniang have any better solution? Your Majesty, there is no way. If someone puts chronic poison in the food, it will be useless to try it. Zhang Shiyu still has nothing to say. Shouldn't good food be eaten while it's hot? Many dishes lose their flavor when they are cold. By the time the eunuch who was trying the dishes finished eating, the hot dishes on the table were all cold. Especially in winter, Eating such meals often is not good for the stomach. When eunuch Ma heard that his method of testing vegetables didn't work, he held a mouthful of vegetables in his mouth and looked at Xiao Jingzhao. Xiao Jingzhao waved his hand and said, "Please step aside. There will be no need to test the dishes in the future. The purchasing and kitchen staff will only need to keep a close eye on them." Zhang Xiu also happened to dislike being served while eating, so the two of them enjoyed their meal in a rather formal manner. The dishes prepared by the imperial chef are really exquisite, and every dish is delicious and delicious. Xiao Jingzhao picked up the serving chopsticks and helped Zhang Xiu prepare the dishes several times. Zhang Xiu didn't have a big appetite, so she tasted a little of every dish and was full after just one bowl of soup. Zhang Xiu has become accustomed to the table manners here, and she doesn't speak when she eats or sleeps. Xiao Jingzhao almost didn't talk about anything serious during the meal except for occasionally saying a word when picking up food for her. After putting down the bowls and chopsticks, Zhang Xiu picked up the handkerchief and pressed her lips. He looked at Xiao Jing with doubtful eyes. Does the emperor really have anything else to say? Well, of course, I want to discuss with you whether it is inconvenient to live in Taiyuan College all year round, and whether you should bring him to live in Sining Palace. Zhang Xiu nodded. I understand that both the Queen Mother and the Princess are thinking about Sui Sui, but they will let him stay in the palace every few days. The rest of the time, I will let him stay at Sujin's place. Xiao Jingzhao looked resentful. Can't you spend some time with me to accompany him? The emperor is busy with government affairs, and I'm afraid he will disturb you. If the emperor has free time, he can occasionally go to Sujin's courtyard to sit. Zhang Xiu didn't care whether the emperor thought too much, she just wanted Xiao Jingzhao to have more contact with Sujin. Xiao Jingzhao really didn't think too deeply about it, and nodded. That's fine, Sujin's residence is not far from the palace gate. Zhang Xiu said goodbye and left the palace. Xiao Jingzhao asked Ma Eunuch to send a sedan and chariot to see her off. Watching Zhang Xiu leave the palace gate, Eunuch Ma said to the guards at the palace gate, no matter when the girl enters the palace, she is not allowed to stop her. Then he said to the eunuch in charge of driving the sedan chair, be more careful in the future, and don't make the girl tired next time. The eunuchs and guards respectfully accepted orders. After Eunuch Ma left, the guard asked the eunuch, who is the girl? The eunuch shook his head and said, I don't know, but the person who can send the steward to the gate of the palace is definitely not an ordinary woman. The next morning, Kang Yun sent Sushui, Sunan, and Yezu to Taiyuan College for interviews. The man in charge of the interview lowered his head and flipped through the booklet in his hand to check whether the name on it was true to prevent anyone from impersonating him. The real great bachelor happened to be walking this way. Students who have just entered the school will be divided into classes according to their age. Students of the same age will take a unified examination after admission and be divided into classes based on their scores. The real bachelor came over now to see how the student interviews were going so that he could have a good idea of whether he could get into the A-class class. Seeing Sushui waiting in line, he couldn't help but stop. Suddenly he remembered what his grandson said to him in the study last night. Grandpa, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers in Taiyuan University, so be cautious in everything. The true identities of some students are not what we see on the surface. Looking at his calm grandson, the real great scholar broke the casserole and asked the truth for the first time. Zhen Jingxiu expressed his suspicions. During the palace examination, he deliberately took a bold look at Long Yan. That day, the emperor was sitting in a high place, with 12 strands hanging from the crown on his head dangling in front of the dragon's face, making him unable to see clearly. The real bachelor had seen the emperor up close in the royal study. Thinking about what his grandson had said, his eyes fell on Sushui's sculpted face. Two figures overlapped in my mind. They look so much like each other. If Sushui removed the bangs from her forehead, she would be carved from the same mold. It's just that one is mature and old, and the other is innocent. If he didn't deliberately compare, he really wouldn't associate two completely unrelated people together. The real great bachelor was so shocked that he froze on the spot. After a moment, he walked up quickly. "Sui Sui, don't wait in line." "Real grandpa," Sui Sui shouted as usual. "Good boy, come here quickly. From now on, just call me Jin Lao." Under everyone's puzzled gaze, Sui Sui was listed without an interview. Xiao Suiyan. Looking at the surname on the roster, Zhen Dexioshi believed his grandson's guess even more. In the past, in Zhen's private school, everyone used to call Sui Sui, and even Zhen Jingxiu thought Sui Sui's surname was Zhang. Seeing that Sunan and Yao Ziu were following Sui Sui closely, Zhen Dexioshi understood what he meant, asked two questions casually, and let them in. "Who is Sujin to you?" Zhen Dexioshi looked at Sunan and asked. Sunan bowed and said, "Reply to Zhen Lao, I am Sujin's younger brother." Zhen Dexioshi then said to the three people, "Come with me. We will be divided into classes tomorrow. I will arrange accommodation for you first." Zhen Dexioshi took the three people to a courtyard. The courtyard here was different from the houses. Rows of side rooms were built side by side, and there was a large garden in the middle. Perhaps because they were worried that the scholars would fall into the water while playing, there was no pool in the whole courtyard. He led the three people to a room with a total of 4 beds. The real scholar told the three of them where to get water to wash and where to eat. Then he glanced around the room and said, "All the utensils are here. If you need anything, tell the manager." After the real scholar left, Sujin wondered, "Didn't they say that we would be divided into houses according to age?" "Don't think about it, second uncle. The real master said that we can get a place, and Uncle Kanyun is still waiting outside. Go and tell him, and send a message to mother that we will not go home today." At this time, 2 handsome scholars were looking for something outside the courtyard. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 264. Zhang Jiaojiao did not expect that Zhang Shuyu's heart was as rock solid, and she still had no intention of forgiving her. She was almost confused. Wasn't Zhang Shuyu very close to the Su family? Why is it different from what my aunt said? Her mind was spinning rapidly. If she didn't recognize herself, she had to recognize Su Peng. As long as she has a relationship with the Su family, it will be a matter of time before she is accepted. Su Peng heard Zhang Shuyu say that she had admitted the wrong person again, and suddenly remembered that she said that too many people had admitted the wrong person. "This restaurant is worth a lot of money. If my cousin was still alive, she would not be able to afford this restaurant." He quickly handed over his hand. "I'm sorry, you do look too much like my cousin." At this time, a waiter came up and said, "My boss, shopkeeper Nangong, is in the accounting room." Zhang Shuyu didn't even look at Zhang Jiaojiao and walked straight forward with the waiter. Qiuju glared at Zhang Jiaojiao and Kaiyan, and quickly followed them. Zhang Jiaojiao walked out of Juxian Pavilion full of doubts. "Miss, my servant will help you get into the carriage." Kaiyan put the baggage in her hand into the carriage and then reached out to hold Zhang Jiaojiao's arm. "Didn't you say there was a sedan chair?" Zhang Jiaojiao was so angry that she resisted the urge to lift the ribbon. "Hey! This carriage is much more spacious than the sedan. If the bride doesn't believe it, go up and have a look. That's right, the carriage is hung with red silk, just like a sedan chair. The bride, hurry up and don't miss the auspicious moment." The two ladies sang in harmony and lured Zhang Jiaojiao into the carriage. After getting on the carriage, Zhang Jiaojiao saw that Kaiyan remained silent, so she lifted up the zippa. The decoration in the carriage is simple and there is no festive red silk at all. Zhang Jiaojiao's face was dark and sullen. If it were the past, she would definitely not obey him. "Miss, put down the ribbon quickly. There are 2 red ribbons hanging in front of the carriage." Kaiyan could tell at a glance that this carriage was called from the street. It only cost a few pennies to go from here to the north of the city. In order not to make the lady angry, Kaiyan pretended not to know. Zhang Jiaojiao was not willing to listen to Kaiyan, so she simply took off the hippo and put it aside. Kaiyan, do you think that bitch made me angry on purpose? She clearly hates the Su family, but she pretends not to know her. Kaiyan shook her head. I don't understand. The eldest lady and her mother have never neglected her maternal grandfather's family before. I don't know why she suddenly became so heartless. Could it be that my aunt made a mistake? Zhang Jiaojiao frowned, and there was no turning back. At this time, it was too late to regret the marriage. It's not that she can't fight it out, it's that the two strong 11 POS outside can't let her leave. Second miss, don't think so much. The boat will go straight when it reaches the bridge. I think my uncle is quite good. He is as talented as Mr. Wei-san. Well, there are still 3,000 nails in the rotten ship. Let's take it one step at a time. Zhang Jiaojiao could only comfort herself. If Zhang Shuyu really ignored the eldest member of the Su family, it would be good to recognize the second member of the Su family. They were connected by blood. Given time, the clouds would clear and the moon would shine. In order to save money for the hotel for a day, she asked the Su family to come to welcome the bride in the morning. After staying in the inn for a few days, I have already spent a lot of money. Entering Su's house, my ears were eerily silent. Being supported by Kaiyan, she bowed to Su Peng and was hurriedly sent to the bridal chamber. Zhang Jiaojiao was dumbfounded when she uncovered the zipper. The groom looks like a human, and the furniture in the house is all made of worthless cypress wood. The wardrobe has not been painted. Zhang Jiaojiao's eyes widened in disbelief. Su Peng, is your family so poor? What? Miss Zhang regrets it? Your aunt came to ask for this marriage in person. Do you think I am willing to marry you? Su Peng retorted with a cold face. Zhang Jiaojiao's face turned red and white from the rebuke. She felt extremely wronged and tears welled up in her eyes. You don't want to marry, and I don't want to marry either. Get out. I'll change my clothes and leave. Zhang Jiaojiao walked down the slope and regretted her marriage. A flash of sarcasm flashed in Su Peng's eyes. You want to regret your marriage and go to Mr. Wei? I'm afraid you will be disappointed. Mr. Wei doesn't know where he is living, and his life is not as good as my Su family. You. What are you doing? Your aunt is fooling my mother, but don't try to fool me with your dirty tricks. I am running errands in my uncle's dining room and I know the waiters in the tea house. Don't even think about making excuses. Speaking of this, Su Peng became very angry. His parents asked him to endure it, saying that Zhang Jiaojiao's dowry was rich, and if he didn't like leaving her alone, he would take the whole house away. I just learned today that Zhang Jiaojiao's so-called dowry only consisted of a box of jewelry. Su Peng's words were simple and straightforward. Zhang Jiaojiao opened her mouth and had nothing to say. Listening to the two people arguing more and more fiercely, Kaiyan outside the door stamped her feet anxiously. Bang! Su Peng opened the door and left. Kaiyan rushed in quickly. Miss, today is your special day. It's unlucky to make such a fuss. Kaiyan, did you hear everything? What nonsense did he say? He doesn't care about his parents' orders to find a matchmaker, so what should I worry about? Zhang Jiaojiao's voice was filled with tears. Miss, let's be patient. What he said is true. If we leave now, where will we go? Kaiyan paused and said, this time, the marriage certificate was stamped by the government. We can't just leave if we want. Zhang Jiaojiao covered her face and sobbed, that bastard will definitely not give it to me and Li Shu. Miss, please calm down and think about it carefully. Which life is better here than in Zhuangzi? Zhang Jiaojiao suddenly stopped sobbing and thought about it seriously. It is impossible to return to the Zhang family, and my father will be unhappy. At least there were banknotes and a box of jewelry given by my aunt beside me. After a moment, she sighed and said, "Let's make do for now, and we'll find a way later." Cai Yan said with some fear, "Miss, do you want to ask Zhao Wu to come and serve us? I think the son-in-law is quite fierce." When Zhang Jiaojiao returned to the capital, Zhao Wu followed the coachman to the Zhang family. Zhang Jiaojiao shook her head, "No, no matter how fierce he is, can he hit me? There is no one around my aunt. Zhao Wu is brought back by us, and my aunt will feel at ease if he uses him." That night, without any suspense, ended with Zhang Jiaojiao alone in the empty room. When the day of returning home came, Su Peng said that he had too many things to do in the room and couldn't get away, and Qin was even more unwilling to prepare the return gift, so Zhang Jiaojiao took Cai Yan back to her parents' home alone. That day happened to be Zhang Zhenming's day off. Seeing Zhang Jiaojiao coming back, Zhang Zhenming couldn't wait to ask, "Jiao have you seen the second son of the Su family?" Zhang Jiaojiao was confused, "Dad, what do you mean? The second aunt of the Su family and the mother-in-law are not on good terms, why would your daughter go to see the second son?" "My silly daughter. Your mother-in-law is confused, don't be confused. The second son of the Su family has moved into the big house of your eldest sister's family, you must have a good relationship with the second son of the Su family." "Auntie, are you mistaken? I asked my mother-in-law, and she said that there is no smoke coming out of the Su family's ancestral tomb." Yang was anxious and grabbed Zhang Jiaojiao's hand, "No, your father knows that the second place is named Sujin, and that damn girl claimed to be her cousin to the outside world, this must be correct." Zhang Zhenming's face was livid. Did he make a mistake? After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hangu. Chapter 265. "Auntie, you may really be mistaken. The second brother's name doesn't seem to be Sujin." Zhang Jiaojiao vaguely remembered Mrs. Jean mentioning it. At that time, Zhang Jiaojiao asked a few more questions, but Mrs. Jean glared at her, "You are already a married woman. If you want to find out more about your cousin, you are not afraid of others laughing at you for being unruly." Zhang Jiaojiao felt guilty. Mrs. Jean didn't tell anything about her affair with Mr. Wei, and there was no lack of yin and yang in her words. She also tried her best to stay in the house honestly and not visit the second room. At this time, Yang was really confused. She looked at Zhang Zhenming, "What should I do? Everyone has entered the Su family, what can I do?" Zhang Zhenming looked at Zhang Jiaojiao with an unhappy expression, "You didn't tell Su Peng that the evil girl was still alive." Without Su Peng refused to consummate the marriage with her, so how could she have the chance to tell him about Zhang Shiyu? Since my uncle didn't accompany him back home, Zhang Zhenming guessed that there must be some estrangement between the two. He said to Ms. Yang, "Take the homecoming gift prepared by Madam and let her take it back." Seeing her father leave, Zhang Jiaojiao told Yang the truth. "Auntie, the Su family knows about their daughter's past, and Su Peng is angry with me." "Silly daughter, you have to calm down. Do you understand what your father means?" Yang said, reaching out and tapping Zhang Jiaojiao's forehead. Zhang Jiaojiao shook her head, "Dad didn't make it clear. My daughter doesn't understand what Dad meant." Kaiyan took over the conversation from the side, "I didn't even let you have lunch, young lady. I asked you to go back early and talk to me about the eldest lady." Yang took out a purse from her arms and put it into Kaiyan's hand. "You need to take more care of me when Miss Su is in the Su family. You are a smart girl. I will make the decision to marry you to Zhao Wu later." Kaiyan took the purse and knelt down with a pop, "Thank you for your kindness, Aunt. I am dedicated to serving the young lady. The young lady has not yet established a foothold in the Su family, so I am not in a hurry to get married." Kaiyan finished speaking and took a sip. If she married Zhao Wu, a rough man who couldn't read a word, the children she had with him would also be slaves and would be slaves for generations, which was not what she wanted. Kaiyan doesn't like Zhao Wu. We'll talk about this later. Auntie, take care of yourself. We'll go back now. Zhang Jiaojiao reluctantly went to greet Mrs. Zheng and returned to Su's house with the gift box prepared by Mrs. Zheng. Yang sent her daughter out and turned back to the room, thinking about pushing her daughter into the fire pit again and again. Think about Zhang Xiyu today. She is famous all over the capital for opening a medical clinic, her restaurant is also flourishing, and her grocery shop is also well received by everyone. The more she thought about it, the sadder she became. She couldn't help lying on the bed, covering her head with the quilt, and crying. When Zhang Jiaojiao returned to Su's house, Su Peng had just arrived home. Miss and uncle go back to the room to talk, and the slave girl will go to the kitchen to help prepare lunch. Kaiyan gave Zhang Jiaojiao a wink, and walked to the kitchen with the bamboo basket in hand. The Su family had no extra servants, so Kaiyan had to go to the kitchen to cook with Qin's personal maid every day. The homecoming gifts given by Zheng were ordinary people's things, including 2 pounds of meat and a box of cakes. Su Peng's eyes followed Kaiyan's figure. She wore her hair in a girl's bun, with no extra beads on her hair. The smile she gave him just now was as fresh as morning dew, and brushed his heart like a feather. The little girl has a pretty face and a smart person, especially when she walks with her buttocks swaying. Thinking about what his mother said, women with big butts are easy to give birth to, Su Peng couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. After a moment, Su Peng withdrew his gaze. Zhang Jiaojiao naturally saw the scene and had something to say to Su Peng today. She suppressed the displeasure in her heart and said, "Husband, you didn't come back with me today. Dad asked me to bring you a message." Su Peng's eyes lit up. "Uncle, did he mention my father?" Su Peng himself has no hope of becoming an official. If his uncle can support his father, life at home will be easier. Let's talk about it when we go back to the house. The two of them returned to the house with their own thoughts, and Zhang Jiaojiao closed the door smoothly. Su Peng rubbed his hands and urged, "Speak quickly, I have something to discuss with you." "Zhang Xiyu is still alive. She is not dead. She is living well." "You mean she?" Su Peng exclaimed. "Yes, that's her." Before Su Peng could finish asking, Zhang Jiaojiao interrupted Su Peng with a wave of her hand. Su Peng shook his head in disbelief. "Impossible, you must have recognized the wrong person. If she is really my cousin, there is no way she will deny me." "Then you go and ask her why she suddenly became unkind and heartless. Not only did she disown you, she even disowned her father." Su Peng still didn't believe it, and he asked, "If she is a cousin, why did my uncle say that she died of a sudden illness? This is a family scandal. I'll tell you about it later." Zhang Jiaojiao's eyes dodge. "No, it's hard for people to believe what you said. She is a girl working alone out there. That huge family fortune is not something that a woman can earn." Su Peng was excited, but his mind was still somewhat rational. He also hoped that he did not admit the wrong person, but how to explain these things? "I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, she was a changed person when she returned to the capital. As for where her wealth came from, who knows, maybe she married a wealthy businessman, or became someone's concubine." Zhang Jiaojiao's words made Su Peng enlightened. Thinking of meeting Zhang Xiyu not far outside the palace gate, the people living in that area were either rich or noble. He slapped his forehead and said, "Hey! Could this matter have anything to do with that person in the palace?" The more Su Peng thought about it, the more excited he became, and his face glowed red. "No, we have to tell my parents about this. With my cousin, we don't have to live a hard life anymore." He glanced at the room. "This bed needs to be replaced with a Nanmu step-out bed, and a screen needs to be placed here. The dressing table also needs to be replaced. A mahogany one will suffice." Finally, he moved his eyes to the wardrobe. "I have been enduring this broken wardrobe for a long time. Seeing Sukpeng's ecstasy, Zhang Jiaojiao pointed to the window frame. Your window should be painted, and it's best to repair the yard. Sukpeng was happy and didn't care about Zhang Jiaojiao's past. He stepped forward and took Zhang Jiaojiao's hand and said ambiguously, "What do you mean your home and my home? This is our home." The two looked forward to the future and soon hugged each other. He put his arm around Zhang Jiaojiao's waist, lowered his head and sucked her lips, and one hand wandered around Zhang Jiaojiao's waist. Zhang Jiaojiao stood on tiptoe and responded enthusiastically, sliding her tongue into her mouth with skillful movements, teasing her cheeks to blush, panting and collapsing in his arms. Sukpeng's hand slipped into her collar and grasped her proud peach. She climbed Sukpeng's neck with one hand and touched his belt with the other. Just when Zhang Jiaojiao thought Sukpeng was going to do something, he stopped and gently pushed her away. Zhang Jiaojiao raised her head, with a layer of mist in her eyes. "Husband, you." It is said that men can't resist the temptation of women. They were about to fire, but the other party stopped abruptly. "Do you dislike me?" Zhang Jiaojiao bit her lower lip lightly, looking pitiful. Sukpeng's eyes flashed with calculation. "No, I can't get over this hurdle in my heart unless you compensate me." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 269. I'm your uncle. The call to the police shocked Su Zhangxing out of his drunkenness. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a beautiful woman in brocade clothes appearing at the door of the restaurant. "Boss, you've come at the right time. This person keeps saying that she's your relative." Hu Qing saw Zhang Shuyu as if he had seen a savior. Zhang Shuyu nodded to Hu Qing and gave him a reassuring look. Then he turned around and asked Kyoja behind him, "Do you know this person?" Kyoja shook her head. "Miss, don't joke. How could I know this gentleman? I'm your uncle. Take a good look at me." Su Zhangxing saw that Zhang Shuyu looked at him calmly, as if she was looking at a stranger, and he jumped up from the armchair. Kyoja saw Su Zhangxing rushing over and hurriedly stepped forward to block Zhang Shuyu. Hu Qing stretched out a hand and held Su Zhangxing's arm. Hu Qing seemed gentle and kind, but he was actually skilled in martial arts. Su Zhangxing retreated with a grimacing pain. Zhang Shuyu concealed the expression in her eyes, stepped forward and said, "My dear guest, my daughter is from Yan'an, and I have no relatives in the capital. Don't try to find relatives in the future." You really are not." Su Zhangxing was dumbfounded. The girl in front of him looked like his niece, but he couldn't tell why. He always felt that there was something different. No, after many years, the girl has changed a lot. The Zhang family said that she must be his niece. Su Zhangxing rubbed his eyes and said with red eyes, Have you lost your memory? It doesn't matter if you don't remember your uncle. Go back with your uncle to see the yard where your mother used to live, and you will remember it." Do you still remember that there was a grape tree in that yard? When you were a child, you rode on your uncle's neck to pick grapes. Su Zhangxing emotionally recounted Zhang Shuyu's childhood experiences, trying to evoke her memories. Zhang Shuyu watched coldly. She knew very well that if the original owner's uncle was in modern times, he would definitely be a figure who could win an Oscar. If she took over his words to explain, he would definitely be very angry and never stop. After a while, Su Zhangxing almost cried with snot and tears. Nanggong Ziyu, who came after hearing the news, walked to Zhang Shuyu and whispered, "Is this man really?" "No, I don't know him." Seeing that the boss and the two shopkeepers were present, the waiter beside him asked, "Boss, what should we do? Should we report to the police?" In everyone's eyes, this is not as simple as eating a free meal, this is the rhythm of blackmailing people. Zhang Shuyu nodded slightly to Hu Qing and walked inside. Do you really not recognize your uncle? Your mother's spirit in heaven will also be uneasy. The voice was heartbreaking, attracting strange looks from other guests. Zhang Shuyu walked to the second floor of the inn without looking back. Nangang Ziyu chased up from behind. Yu Niang, is that man really not your uncle? Zhang Shuyu said lightly, no. No, that man spoke sincerely, it doesn't seem like a lie. Zhang Shuyu climbed the stairs, followed closely by Nangang Ziyu. Qiuju followed quickly and said to Nangang Ziyu, Mr. Nangang, don't ask miss, the inside story is hard to explain. When they arrived at the account office on the second floor, Zhang Shuyu still chose to tell the truth about why she couldn't recognize her relatives. After listening to Zhang Shuyu's words, Nangang Ziyu said firmly, this relative can't be recognized. Yu Niang, you have finally lived a peaceful life. Once you are stuck with this blood-sucking relative, there will be no end. In the hall, Su Zhengxing saw that Zhang Shuyu didn't pay any attention to him at all, just like a punch on cotton. Seeing that the waiter really went to report to the police, he hurriedly shouted, wait, what report to the police? I didn't say I wouldn't settle the bill. Su Zhengxing felt around for a long time before taking out a silver ingot and a string of copper coins and putting them on the table. Here, that's all, no more. The waiter picked up the copper coins and counted them. After a moment, the waiter said, Sir, you still need 100 coins. Su Zhengxing said angrily, your boss is my niece. What's wrong with 100 coins? You can't send me to the government for 100 coins. Hu Qing saw Su Zhengxing's behavior and had guessed most of it. He said slowly, don't talk nonsense anymore. Our boss is from another place. She is not yours. You don't need to send the government for 100 coins. I'll send someone to go back to your house with you to get it, okay? Su Zhengxing saw that he couldn't make a scene, and if he insisted, he would be sent to the government and the officials would go to his house to ask for money. He had no choice but to follow Hu Qing's suggestion and led the waiter away under the complicated eyes of everyone. Seeing her husband return, Qin excitedly grabbed Su Zhengxing's sleeve, Master, is you are so happy to see you? Did she say when she would come to visit the Su family? Su Zhengxing shook his head in frustration. She said she didn't know me, and she even asked someone to come to the house to get some money. What? What money? Qin's eyes widened in disbelief. Su Zhengxing moved away from the door, and the waiter behind him stepped forward and bowed, Madam, this gentleman spent a total of 120,300 coins in the restaurant. He has already paid part of it, and there is still a shortfall of 100 coins. I am responsible for coming to get it. How could this be? You damned bastard, you went to recognize your relatives but you still owe a lot of debts. Jean was so angry that she wanted to kill someone. Madam, don't be anxious. It's just 100 coins. Give it to me now, don't embarrass yourself, Su Zhengxing said as he dodged to the side. You still know how to save face? My son asked you to order dishes carefully, but did you drop your eyes into your pants? Qin jumped up and started to curse. There was a waiter beside her, and Qin's curse was too vulgar. Su Zhengxing was a salaried person after all, so he had to save some face. He pointed at Qin and yelled, Merchant girls are vulgar, shut up. Take the silver and let others go back to report. You despise me because I'm a merchant girl now? Look at what you're wearing, which one is not given by my family? Without me, a merchant girl, you, Su, probably wouldn't even have underwear to wear. Qin didn't care about her face, and simply started to curse. You vulgar bitch, I won't argue with you. Su Zhengxing was so angry that he couldn't speak. Hearing the shouting and cursing in the yard, Su Peng and Zhang Jiaojiao ran out quickly. Dad. Mom. Why are you two arguing again? Son. Your dad is a jerk. He ate too much at the restaurant, and the owner came to collect the debt. Look, he still owes the restaurant 100 coins. Where can I find the money to pay him? I am so miserable. I met such a loser. Qin covered her face and cried. She didn't have no money in her hand, but she wanted Zhang Jiaojiao to give it to her. Seeing his son and daughter-in-law come out, Su Zhangxing ran to the east courtyard. Su Peng saw the waiter standing in the courtyard, and he said to Zhang Jiaojiao, Madam, give him the money to send him away first, and I will give you the money when my monthly salary comes. Zhang Jiaojiao. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 273. As soon as Zhang Shuya got off the carriage, she saw Gao Mu and Zhang Cai coming out of the mansion. Zhang Cai saw Zhang Shuya standing outside the door and hurried forward to meet the young lady. The young lady is back, Gao Mu shouted and went to take the items from Qiu Ju's hand. Why are you rushing to the city in this weather today? Zhang Shuya looked at the carriage expectantly. If nothing unexpected happened, Zhang Cai should be here to deliver vegetables. The outside of the carriage was no different from an ordinary carriage. Zhang Cai stepped forward and lifted the curtain. The carriage with the seat removed was full of bamboo baskets. The small ones are here to deliver vegetables. Green leafy vegetables are easy to freeze, so the small ones cannot be delivered on a cart, Zhang Cai said with a simple smile. Zhang Shuya gave Zhang Cai an approving look. Your idea is good, bamboo baskets are breathable, and green leafy vegetables will not turn yellow. I sent a basket of vegetables to the kitchen, please tell me where to send the rest. Thinking that it has been a while since Zhang Cai and his son separated, Zhang Shuya said, let Gao Mu go with you to deliver the vegetables. You stay to see Yezu today, and it won't be too late to return to the manor tomorrow. Zhang Shuya's words were exactly what Zhang Cai wanted. Before leaving, his father specifically told him to see if Yezu was used to living in the capital and whether he had taken good care of the young master. Zhang Cai bowed slightly, I will follow the young lady's arrangement. Gao Mu and Qiu Ju moved the items to the gatehouse. Qiu Ju said to Gao Mu, leave it to me. Go and listen to the young lady's orders. Seeing Gao Mu coming out of the gatehouse, Zhang Shuya said, send some to the palace first, leave a basket for a jin, and send the rest to the restaurant. How much is appropriate for the palace to send? Zhang Shuya thought for a while and said, send 2 baskets for the people in the palace to taste. She looked at Zhang Cai again, how many days will it take for the next delivery of vegetables? Zhang Cai replied respectfully, if the young lady needs it urgently, I can deliver it every other day after I go back. That's not necessary. It just snowed heavily and the road is slippery. It's just right to send another car in 5 days. Gao Mu and Zhang Cai left, and Zhang Shuya walked to the kitchen. A full basket of small cabbages, the green leaves are still shining. Zhang Shuya asked the cook to divide it into 2 portions, one for the mansion to eat, and the other for the servant to deliver to Du Yutong's house. Du mansion. Du Yutong lazily leaned on the couch. Zhu'er said, Miss, the snow outside seems to be getting smaller and smaller. If you feel bored, I will accompany you to the yard to make a snowman. No, if my mother sees me, she will definitely say I am childish. After Du Yutong finished speaking, she suddenly remembered something. Zhu'er, go get a cloak, let's go to my aunt's yard to take a look. Before Zhu'er could get the cloak, Du Yutong jumped up from the couch and ran out like a gust of wind. It's cold outside, miss, wait a minute. Zhu'er hurriedly chased after her. Du Wenru saw her thinly dressed niece coming over, and quickly stuffed the hot water bottle in her hand into Du Yutong's arms. Why are you running so fast, kid? Don't you know to put on your cloak? It's so cold, what should you do if you catch a cold? Du Yutong hugged the hot water bottle tightly and said with a playful smile, it's not cold. I feel warm in my heart thinking that my aunt will make a lot of money soon. You are such a money grubber. Your aunt's shops can only support herself after deducting expenses. How can she make a lot of money? Du Wenru gently touched Du Yutong's forehead, then pulled her to sit on the couch. The maid in the room had just poured a cup of hot tea when Zhu'er followed in breathlessly. Miss, you ran too fast, I couldn't catch up with you. Du Yutong said to Zhu'er, go and rest, I have something important to discuss with my aunt. Zhu'er bowed slightly, put down her cloak and stepped aside. Seeing her niece's serious look, Du Wenru sat down next to Du Yutong. Does Tong really have any business tips to share with aunt? Aunt, I just remembered that Sister Yu runs Juxian Pavilion so well. She has a good business sense. How about you invite Sister Yu to invest in the incense shop? Du Yutong looked at her aunt with shining eyes. Du Wenru nodded without thinking, of course, I just don't know if Miss Zhang will be interested in my small business. Aunt, don't underestimate the small business now. Maybe it will be big in the future. There are so many rich families in the capital, and the amount of incense used is not small. Du Wenru was not so optimistic. She said, there are many ladies in the capital who have spice shops at home, and some of them are not well managed and have been losing money. If you want to invite Miss Zhang to invest, just let her help and guide, and don't let her invest money in it. If there is a loss, I will feel bad. Du Yutong also agreed with her aunt's words and nodded hurriedly, okay, I will go to talk to Sister Yu about this tomorrow, but I believe in Sister Yu's ability. She will definitely find a way to sell incense better. Du Yutong was talking happily when a maid outside the door reported, Miss, the Zhang mansion sent someone to deliver green leafy vegetables. Do you want to go out and take a look? Green leafy vegetables. Du Yutong stood up suddenly. Sister Yu's greenhouse vegetables on the farm are successful. Before Du Wenru had time to ask what greenhouse vegetables were, a figure flashed in front of her, and Du Yutong grabbed her cloak and rushed out of the warm room. When Du Yutong came to the outer courtyard, the servant who delivered the vegetables had already left. On the 8 immortals table, a basket full of small cabbages lay in the bamboo basket. Du Yutong picked up a vegetable and looked at it over and over again, and then sniffed it close to her nose. This vegetable is really strange. The part above the root is white and tender. You can tell it must be crunchy when you eat it. The leaves are like rapeseed seedlings in spring, and they also emit a faint fragrance. That's right. In this season, green leafy vegetables are a rarity. You can't buy them even if you have money. Not to mention that you can't buy them even if you have money. Even the imperial kitchen doesn't have this rarity. I went to the East Market to buy some a few days ago. There weren't many radishes and cabbages in the market. This vegetable looks so cute. I've never seen it before. The servants and maids in the outer courtyard learned that the Zhang mansion had sent fresh vegetables, so they all came to have a sneak peek. Everyone was talking about the cabbage. Du Yutong put down the dish in her hand and asked, did the guy who delivered the dish tell me how to make it delicious? The servant in charge of purchasing in the kitchen said, I asked, this dish is called cabbage, it can be cooked into soup, stir-fried, and the leaves can be cut into vegetable porridge. Cook all the ways you said, don't let the dish go bad. Du Yutong is a meat lover. She hasn't eaten green leafy vegetables since winter. Looking at the green and fresh vegetables, she suddenly felt a little greedy. In the imperial garden, the plum blossoms are particularly charming in their icy and snowy appearance. A tall figure stands under the beautiful red wall. Suddenly, a figure ran from a distance. Looking at the shallow footprints in the snow behind the person, Xiao Jingzhao said lightly, has the Jinyue sent back any news?